Once upon a time in a faraway land, there lived a young girl who loved to laugh. Her laughter was like the tinkling of bells, and it echoed through the valleys and over the hills. The girl's name was Mary, and she lived with her grandmother in a cozy cottage surrounded by a big garden full of flowers. One day while playing in the garden, Mary found a small box under a bush. She opened the box and saw a tiny little mouse inside. The mouse was no bigger than her thumb, and it looked at her with its little pink nose twitching. "Hello," squeaked the mouse. "Can you help me? I've been turned into a mouse by an evil witch, and only your laughter can break the spell." Mary thought this was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. She laughed and laughed until she cried. But as she looked closer at the mouse, she noticed that its fur was matted and tangled. It looked sad and lonely, and Mary's laughter slowly faded away. She knew she had to do something to help the mouse. She took it home and washed its fur until it was soft and fluffy again. Then she made it a tiny bed out of cotton wool and gave it some milk and cheese to eat. The mouse was so grateful for Mary's kindness, and it told her all about the evil witch and how she had stolen all the happiness from the land by turning everyone into mice. Mary was determined to help the mouse and all the other animals. So she went to the village and asked the people if they knew anything about an evil witch. An old woman who was sitting on a bench said, "I saw a witch enter the forest today. She was wearing a pointy hat and had a black cat with her." Mary thanked the old woman and ran as fast as she could to the forest. She walked deep into the trees, and soon she heard a cackle. "That must be her," she whispered. And around a bend in the path, she saw the witch stirring a big cauldron. Beside the cauldron sat a black cat with a green collar. "Good afternoon," Mary called out. "What are you doing?" The witch turned around and glared at her. "This is none of your business," she snapped. "Go away before I turn you into a toad." Mary wasn't scared. She stood her ground and said, "You won't turn me into a toad. You are too small to do that." The witch was furious, and she raised her pointy finger and shouted, "I am not small. I am powerful, and I will show you." She waved her finger, and suddenly the ground shook. Trees fell down and a river started to form. "There," she shouted. "Do you see now? I am powerful." But Mary just laughed. "That's the best magic show I've ever seen," she said. "You should have blown up a volcano or something." The witch was so angry that her face turned green. She waved her finger again, and this time she turned Mary into a little kitten. "Now we'll see who's laughing," she cackled. But when Mary looked down at her paws, she purred. She loved being a kitten. She could climb trees, chase butterflies, and drink milk from a saucer. She pounced on the witch's black cat and tickled him until he purred too. Then they chased each other through the forest, and Mary was having too much fun to want to be anything else. When the sun began to set, Mary and the black cat came across a little house made of twigs and leaves. A family of hedgehogs was gathered outside the house, and they were worried. "Our friend has disappeared," one of the hedgehogs said. "We haven't seen her for days, and we're afraid something bad has happened." Mary knew exactly who they were talking about. It was the witch's familiar. She was a brave little mouse who always wore a red cap. Mary had seen her scurrying around the cottage, and she was sure she'd be able to help the hedgehogs find her. Mary climbed up a tree and looked around. She spotted a red cap on top of a haystack. She meowed loudly and jumped down. Then she ran as fast as she could to the haystack. There, hiding between the bales of hay, was a little mouse. "Oh, thank goodness you're here," she squeaked. "The witch is going to turn me into bacon and eggs." Mary promised to help her, and together they ran back to the little house. When the mouse told the others what the witch had planned, they were very frightened. "We have to do something," squeaked one of the hedgehogs. "But what?" Mary thought for a moment. She knew the witch was too powerful for them to defeat with magic, and they couldn't run away because the witch would catch them. Then she had an idea. "I think I can help you," she said. She led the animals into the forest, and they all gathered around a large oak tree. "What do we do?" a rabbit asked. Mary closed her eyes and concentrated. She pictured the witch's face turning green with anger. She imagined her hair standing on end and her broomstick breaking in two. Then she opened her eyes and shouted, "I'm not scared of you." The witch appeared behind her and snarled, "I'll show you who's scared of whom." She raised her pointy finger and shouted, "Be gone." But instead of disappearing, Mary grew larger and larger until she was the size of the oak tree. The animals gasped as Mary reached out a paw and knocked the witch off her broomstick. The witch landed in the dirt with a thump, and her pointy hat fell into a nearby stream. She tried to get it out, but the water was too deep. So she pulled off her cloak and waded into the stream to retrieve her hat. Mary used her magic to make the water colder and colder until the witch was shivering. Then she blew on her paws and created a snowball. With a flick of her tail, she sent the snowball flying through the air and it landed on the witch's head. The witch screamed as she slid down the oak tree. She landed in a patch of mud and her cloak got stuck to her feet. Mary laughed and the animals cheered. Then she picked up the witch and carried her to the stream. She dipped her in the water and helped her wash off the mud. "I'm not a bad witch," the witch sniffled. "I just wanted to be happy." Mary smiled. "I know you do, but being happy doesn't require any magic. All you need is a friend." The witch wiped her eyes and looked at Mary. "Will you be my friend?" she asked. Mary hugged her. "Of course," the witch beamed. She was so happy to have a friend. She took off her pointy hat and put on a floppy one. Then she gave Mary her black cat. "Here, you can have him. He's yours now." Mary thanked her and scratched the cat behind the ears. He purred loudly. The witch then waved her magic wand and turned herself into a beautiful white dove. "Goodbye, Mary," she cooed. "Thank you for everything." Mary waved as the dove flew away. She turned back into a human and raced home. She couldn't wait to tell her grandmother about her adventure. When she got home, she ran into her arms and told her everything that had happened. "Oh, Mary," her grandmother said, hugging her tight. "You've made me the happiest grandmother in the world." Then she took Mary's hand and said, "You know, your laughter really can change the world." And from that day on, whenever Mary felt sad or angry, she would close her eyes, think of the witch and her animal friends, and let out a big, beautiful laugh that echoed through the valleys and over the hills.